Hello and welcome to another GCSE revision video, and in this video we're going to be looking at probability. A probability is a number between 0 and 1 that tells us how likely something is to happen. So 0 means something is impossible, there's no way it can happen, and 1 means it's absolutely certain, guaranteed to happen. That means that a probability can never be less than 0 and it can never be greater than 1. Now, a probability of 0 means something really is impossible. There's no way it can happen. For example, the probability of picking a blue pen out of a pack that only contains red pens, or the probability of 10 billion people subscribing to my channel tomorrow. A probability of between 0 and 0.25, generally on a maths exam you will see something like a probability of 0.25 and asked to put in words what that means. It means unlikely. For example, it's unlikely that you'll pass your exams without studying, although to be honest your probability is probably considerably lower than 0.25, only very, very marginally higher than 0. But a probability of 0.25 just means it's unlikely to happen. A probability of 0.5 just means it's equally as likely to happen as not happen. For example, you toss a coin and it falls on heads, or you toss a coin and it falls on tails. You've got as much chance of it falling on heads as you have of it falling on tails. Or a fair die will land on an odd number. A probability of 0.75 is just saying that something is likely to happen. For example, you're likely to pass your exams if you study hard and revise. And a probability of 1 means something is absolutely certain, guaranteed going to happen. For example, at least one person will watch this video. I know because I'm planning to watch it myself. We're not married to the idea of expressing a probability as just a decimal though. We can express it as a fraction or as a percentage, which can cause some people to be a little bit confused. Like when I said a probability has to be between 0 and 1, people can say, oh, but I've heard of people talking about 100%. Well, 100% actually means 1, because it's 100 out of 100, which is 1. So we could express something that's impossible as either 0 or 0%, or we could express something that's unlikely as a quarter or 25% or 0.25. If it's equally likely to happen as not happen, we could say the probability is a half or 50% or 0.5. If something's likely to happen, we could say the probability is 3/4 or 75% or 0.75. And if something's certain to happen, we could say the probability is 1 or 100%. We calculate the exact value of the probability by dividing the number of qualifying outcomes by the total number of possible outcomes. For example, what is the probability of rolling a 6 on a fair die? And just for clarity, the word die is singular for dice. Some people don't seem to know that, and it might impress your English teacher if you know that you have a die and 2 or more dice. So there are 6 possible values that a fair die can land on, which goes without saying is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. Of course, only one value will match our criteria. So the probability of throwing a 6 on a fair die is 1 chance out of 6, which we write as 1 over 6 as a fraction, or as a decimal is 0.1666, and the 6's will keep on going until you decide to round up the last one to a 7. You could also, of course, express it as a percent, which would have been 16.6666 recurring, and you round up the last 6 to a 7. So we calculate the probability by dividing the number of qualifying outcomes by the total number of possible outcomes. Now, technically, what we call the number of qualifying outcomes is the event, and we call the total number of possible outcomes the sample space. So the probability of an event is equal to the event divided by the sample space. Okay, well, so much for the theory. Let's have a go at putting this into practice. Let's take a very, very simple question. What is the probability of tossing a heads on a fair coin? So our event is a heads. So there's one head on a coin. And our sample space is 2, because there are two possible outcomes. There's a head or a tails. We're ignoring the possibility that it could land on its side, which is so ridiculously unlikely we can ignore it for the maths. So our probability of a head is 1 in 2, which we could call 0.5 or 50%. Okay, let's try another example. Jane opens up a box of chocolates which contain 4 caramel centres, 2 coffee centres and 4 strawberry centres. Unfortunately, Jane has lost the key that tells her which chocolate is which, and she hates coffee centres, but likes all the others. What is the probability that she will randomly pick a chocolate that she likes? Well, we know that she likes the 4 caramel centres, so our event is the 4 caramel centres plus the 4 strawberry centres which she likes, and our sample space is 4 plus 2 plus 4. That is to say, 4 caramel centres, 2 coffee centres and 4 strawberry centres. So our event is equal to 4 plus 4, which is 8, and our sample space is 4 plus 2 plus 4, which is 10. So our probability that she picks a chocolate that she likes is 8 out of 10, which again we could express as 0.8 or 80%. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so here's a question actually lifted from a sample paper. Greg rolls a fair ordinary dice once. I noticed they're using the plural for a singular, but that's no big deal. On the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that the dice will land on an odd number. Okay, so what's our event? Our event is an odd number, so that's 1, 3 or 5. So there are 3 for our event, and our sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, so there are 6 possible numbers, which we can cancel down by dividing top and bottom by 3 to 1 in 2. So we mark with a cross right here. And part 2 says, on the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that the dice will land on a number less than 5. So we've got the numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4, which are all less than 5. and there are 6 possible numbers, so that's 4 out of 6. Now let's just have a look at these gradings here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will represent 1/6, this will represent 2/6, 3/6 is a half, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. So 4/6 would be here, so we mark right here. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. I'd like to wish you all the best with your revision and all the best with your exams, and I'll see you in another video.